Hello, everyone. Happy Monday, September 22nd here. It's bye week number 1 here at the Wolverine. Anthony Broom here with Chris Ballas and Clayton Safey, as we are every Monday night live at 6 p.m. We're going to try and tighten this one up just a little bit. It's all going to depend on your questions and whatnot, which we'll take in the final segment. But, of course, Michigan coming off a 30-27 win at Nebraska. Sherrone Moore spoke to the media today. He's back. He's out of the penalty box. Big week for his team as they have some opportunity practices. And like we do every week at the end of the show, we will take your questions at the end of the program. Welcome in both of my co-hosts here for the evening, fellas. Nice to see you again online.
Great to be here, and got the Lions tonight. It's exciting. So I think they got a shot. I think they're going to play the Ravens better than they played them last time when they were out there. But big win for Michigan. I picked Michigan to lose. Glad they did not. And, boy, they made it harder on themselves than they had to, fellas. But Nebraska's not a very good football team. I hate to say it, especially in the trenches.
Yeah, get those questions in on the Super Chat forum. If you get those, we'll skip to the front of the line, and all the questions at the end as well in the live YouTube chat. So great to be here. Pumped to get into it.
As we are every week, we are brought to you in our opening part of the show by our friends at Homefield Apparel. Use the link below to head over to homefieldapparel.com. Chris looks like he has his on over there. They're pretty kind about selling care packages now and again. I got one a couple weeks ago. Super awesome haul of stuff from them. But whether it's T-shirts, crew necks, hoodies, the joggers are great. I see a new trucker hat on the screen if you're watching the video version of our show. So it's all outstanding. We love Connor and his crew down there in Indianapolis, the heart of Big Ten country. Shout out to his Indiana Hoosiers, by the way. 63-10 win over number 9 Illinois over the weekend. That was very impressive. But everything they have is great. We've been singing their praises for years. They're known friends and trusted agents. So head on over to homefieldapparel.com. And holidays be here before you know it. My birthday's coming up. If you want to add to my collection, reach out to me. I'll let you know what I'm looking at on there. So head on over to homefieldapparel.com. We are also brought to you tonight by ourselves using the promo code UM1, which gets you 2 months of access to our site for only a single $1 at this point. Doing the math, this is going to get you late into the season. And once you get a taste of the Wolverine, you're going to want to stick around. So take advantage of that $1 deal and join us today. That's going to help you. If you're not watching the shows live, go and submit questions for the show on our message board. We do a weekly Thursday chat. You get everything behind the paywall. So take advantage of that deal today. That is also in the description below. Okay, well, as is tradition here during football season, I was live over the weekend. Chris, I believe you just did your podcast with Doug Skeen. So we'll turn things over to Clayton Safey for thoughts at Nebraska about the win over Nebraska, and we'll put a bow on that as well as we move into the first bye week.
2 words come to mind: great and glorious victory. I mean, what a huge win for Michigan. Outstanding in a tough environment at Nebraska, and kind of the national perception coming into the game was that Michigan wasn't going to be able to get it done. I saw Josh Pate say that the wrong team was favored, and our guys Ari and Andy over on the On3 National Show, they both picked Nebraska, and people kind of preying on Michigan's downfall without their head coach in a tough environment. I think partly because of what happened at Oklahoma, but this was not going to be quite the test that you saw at Oklahoma. Michigan comes out, really bullies Nebraska in the trenches, and wins this game, and now all your goals are still in front of you. Your playoff chances are still very high here as you head into your first bye week. The Bussin' Bowl trophy is staying in Ann Arbor. It comes back with Michigan on the happy flight home from Lincoln. I believe that's 3-0 since the Bussin' Bowl trophy has been created. So good to get that and keep all the hardware. Michigan's got all their trophies right now in the locker room over at Schembechler Hall in the Big House. And, I think that the trenches were kind of the story of this game from my standpoint. When you look at really after the majority of that first scripted drive from Nebraska, the 4th and 2, they get Pierce makes a great play to kind of blow that up. And from that point forward, Michigan's defensive line feasted, whether they were eating corn, eaten whatever. They feasted in this game. 7 sacks, pressure on 49% of dropbacks, 7 sacks in just a third Big Ten game for Michigan since 2021 over the last 5 seasons. And then the offensive line, waits for those big runs. Jordan Marshall, Justice Haynes, Bryce Underwood with his quarterback draw. It feels like Chip Lindsey's getting more comfortable playing this offense, especially now that you've kind of taken the shackles off of Bryce Underwood a little bit. Greg Crippen in on 2 huge runs, both of the long ones for touchdowns by the running backs. He played outstanding, and the offensive line has shown improvement. Like, just a lot of good from this game. Could have been a much more lopsided result. You had a dumb penalty that extended a drive that was essentially a turnover. You had the Hail Mary at the end of the half that really should have never even been a play in general. You make them punt that 10 times out of 10 using your timeout. But at the same time, Michigan gets out of the Biff Poggi era 2-0. He hands it back to Sherrone Moore. You're in your bye week, so you've got to feel really good about that.
8-0 in games in which the coach has been suspended.
Yes.
So how about that?
Unreal.
And
It's supposed to be a punishment, right?
yeah, I know. I was like, how can we get suspended again? And obviously that's just a joke. But I took a lot of shit for saying that Michigan had more talent. They were the more talented football team. I think it was obvious in a lot of ways on Saturday, especially in the trenches. They beat up Nebraska's offensive line more than I thought they would. I really thought that Nebraska's offensive line would be better. Michigan dominated them. A big part of that was moving Jayshon Barham to the edge, where he absolutely wrecked the offensive tackles, Nebraska's offensive tackles, which was a beautiful thing to see. And man, how many times did he get hogtied, by the way? Michigan has yet to draw a holding penalty this year. I asked Sherrone Moore about that. This is absurd. He said he didn't even hold back. He said, well, you can say it. He said weren't just holding him, they were tackling him. And he said, as long as it's happening on both sides, I guess it's okay, but it's not, because if you have such a strength on that side of the ball, which they did, and, maybe it's a couple the other way, but literally 12, 13 times when you have 36 pressures that guys could have been called for blatant holding, and it's not called. What's going on here? Time for the Big Ten and the NCAA to look at its officials and say, all right, what the hell is going on? So that was absurd. But I wouldn't go as far as to say it was a glorious win. I would say it's a nice win. A win that you better have if you're going to stay alive in the race for the playoff. What concerned me going into this one was some of the shit that we saw, the stupid penalties, the dumb, the coaching decision at halftime to not call timeout with 15 seconds left and make them punt the ball. And instead, guys, when Raiola was rolling out and he had that much time to throw, I thought, okay, this thing's going to the goal line. And it's a 50-50 proposition, because I saw TJ Guy down there who I think Clay said 4 inches off the ground. That might be generous and trying to knock that ball away.
I did not say 4. I'd say about this far.
Yeah, exactly. Well, 3, maybe 2. And so that was absurd. So anyway, it was really a good win, one that you have to win. But to me, I would call it a great win just because it's a road win in the Big Ten.
I think, and I would just want to preface by saying, like, this is not a shot at who says what about the quality of the win, but to put this win in perspective, I don't think you need to look any further than this was a game that, and Clayton, you hinted at the national sort of narrative around this, where this was a turning point game for the Nebraska football program. And this was a moment in their season. Like, this is a moment in their season, a moment when they were going to have an opportunity, the year 3 under Matt Rule. That's been the stat that's been thrown out there. And like I said, after the game, them losing this game doesn't necessarily mean that the year 3 magic isn't there under Matt Rule. I think they are a good football team and will get better from this. But we've been to a lot of road games. That was the least amount of maize and blue I've ever been in the stands. That's an incredibly tough environment to play in. That's a game that fan base was gearing up for, and they had to have. And Michigan, without its head coach, came in, and I think when people made the predictions that they did discount both sides of the ball in the trenches, what Michigan has versus what Nebraska didn't have. And that's where, for the Nebraska fans, that was a state of the program thing. They have to get a lot better there to be in that upper echelon of the Big Ten Conference. But for Michigan's players, warts and all, and make no mistake about it, there were plenty of self-inflicted wounds. There were the drops. There were stupid penalties. There were, gaffes from the sideline. But for them to go in there, and there are two stats that tell the story of this game. It's the 36 pressures that Michigan generated on the defensive side of the ball. For context, they had generated 31 total in the last 2 weeks, and that included a game where Central Michigan was, as I like to put it, putting a bunch of traffic cones out there. 36 pressures is insane. And you flip to the other side of the ball, and they have 290 yards rushing. That you can work on the other stuff. You can clean up the drops. You can clean up the penalties. And really, Michigan needs to take a hard look at cleaning up its sideline procedural stuff too. And credit to Sherrone Moore. You could tell when we talked to him today, he was pissed off about that. Didn't want to get into it. It's something you can laugh off now that Michigan won the game. But Biff said it at the start of last week that players win football games, not coaches. Now, coaches can lose football games, and Michigan's very fortunate that the Hail Mary didn't happen. But that was great win, okay win, whatever you want to call it. It's a hell of a win because it allows you to turn the page from Oklahoma. You're going into a bye week now, and you have something. This is something tangible to build off of, which Michigan had the same record after 4 weeks last year. But did it feel like it was building towards something with the issues they had on offense and all that? This feels different, and these last few weeks do kind of feel like a moment for them. So credit where credit's due. I mean, I don't apologize for wins in Big Ten play. That was one that both teams had to have, and the team wearing the winged helmet flew home with the Bussin' Bowl trophy. So there you go.
Clay?
Yeah, love keeping that trophy home. But no, yeah, I mean, I think that Michigan has made significant strides, to your point, Anthony, since they lost at Oklahoma on both, lines of scrimmage. Great to see Rayshon Benny get in there and make some big-time plays. The Jayshawn Barham move, I mean, may be the biggest pivot point of this season to this point, outside of maybe letting Bryce Underwood run the football a little bit more and him getting more comfortable doing so on some of those scrambles. But he has just been a game up there because now he's freeing up his teammates like Derek Moore, who's probably a little healthier than he started the year. He was able to dominate in there as well. We already mentioned Trey Pierce, a lot of the other defensive tackles. Eno Etta made some plays. You're seeing that depth show up. You're seeing Cole Sullivan just continue to make plays in the second level of the defense. And, part of allowing Barham to move up to the front line is, the fact that they have some really capable players, probably their deepest position group. Jimmy Rolder, Cole Sullivan making plays out there. Still want to see a little bit more out of the secondary. Got to get healthy at corner. Got to get better in general, I think, on the back end. And I think that they will. Drops and, wide receiver, a huge issue. Got to a little bit better. I think you were under 5 yards per attempt this game. Can't happen, but I guess it can when your defense plays good enough and you're able to generate some of those explosives, through the run game. So, I think that what we've seen since the Oklahoma game is that Michigan is a lot better than what they showed, has a pretty high ceiling with this group this year. I still think we're going to see a lot more out of Underwood through the air than we have so far, and the defense can get even better. So I kind of like where they're at, and then you can't fail to mention Dom Zavada as well. That's a real weapon when he can hit those deep ones, and we obviously knew he could, but great to see him come through in those big moments once again.
That was maybe one of the three biggest plays of the game. You don't make that field goal tied at 17. Nebraska gets the ball with momentum at its 40. I wish they would have tried against Oklahoma in hindsight. Have confidence in the kid. Now, he's missed a couple, but like I said before, he's been hitting the ball well. So that thing had 10 yards to spare, guys. What a kick. So needed all three of his kicks. That was fantastic. Other parts of special teams still need to be cleaned up. The punting game, the punt return game. Bryson Cusdahl, I think a Catholic Central kid, Clay, if I'm not mistaken.
Forest Hills Eastern.
Forest Hills Eastern, that's right. I knew he's from Grand Rapids. So, but makes a shoestring tackle, or the return man might still be running. So those things need to be cleaned up. And other than that, the receivers, guys, those drops have got to stop. I don't care if you try somebody else. I don't care what you do. Get some stick 'em out there. But Bryce Underwood, guess what Bryce Underwood's really where he's rated in passing efficiency in the country? Anybody?
Ellis.
Out of how many?
104th out of 128, and that is not on him. That's on the guys that can't catch the ball. I think there was somebody just posted on Twitter about an adjusted rating or something like that, and it would be a lot higher because his receivers are just killing him. So I thought the pass to Channing Goodwin in the end zone was beautiful. It was a dime. He should have been caught. Gorgeous throw. I mean, you can't throw the ball any better than that. So these guys got to start making plays for him. I know that they are starting to look already at next year and potentially going to the portal for some receivers, but there's a lot to play for this year, guys. This is a potential playoff team. Those guys have got to make the plays when they're there.
I totally agree. You said it on Saturday Night Show that, if you're ever wondering how much of a portal destination this could be for wide receivers, you just slip on the Nebraska game, and that's a perfect example of that. I mean, Bryce Underwood making throws all over the field, and got to have some of those. I think the question I want to ask before we talk Sherrone, and we'll go into questions after that, is this team has played 4 games now, and there's been some not so good. There's been a lot of good. I think there's been more good than bad. I think it's in certain ways you've seen them get better every week. How have these first 4 weeks changed your expectations for this year, if at all? And what do you think this team is after 4 weeks?
Not much. I had them at 9-3. I'm still there. And after Oklahoma, I thought, okay, maybe the floor is a little bit lower, but it's starting to look, guys, that Oklahoma's a pretty damn good football team. Would they have 10 sacks against Auburn? Didn't we say? Isn't something like that? So that front is maybe the best that they will play all year. In fact, I think it will be the best they played all year. And in that environment, a hungry team, that was a very good football team. So I look at the rest of the slate and the defenses that they're going to face, and I don't see anything nearly as daunting. I look at USC, defense optional against Michigan State. Michigan State doesn't have the horses. They look like dog crap on defense. Washington's offense scares you a little bit, but I think that Bryce Underwood's going to continue to get better. And now that they are unleashing him a little bit with his feet, obviously that opens things up. They're averaging 35 points a game, despite him not having that passing rating, because people have to respect him and what he does. And the run game has opened up because of it. The zone blocking schemes that they're employing now has really made it easier on the young linemen. The line has improved since Sherrone Moore has gone over there and been hands-on with them. So good for him and good on him for doing that. Jake Guarnera, I think, was an upgrade at guard. So, and there are going to be much bigger tests, though, guys. Let's be honest. That Nebraska team is not a good football team. They are not good in the trenches. They're good enough to hang with maybe some of the look back teams in the Big Ten, but I think that USC game is going to be interesting. Even that Michigan State game could be somewhat interesting in a couple weeks down there. So lots of good football to watch in the Big Ten to see how other teams stack up. But Nebraska did not impress me. I expected a lot more of them. I think their fans did too. As Anthony said, when we were down there, they were really talking like, man, Matt Rule, year 3, we love this guy. This is the one. This is the year and this team. But after we saw him against Cincinnati, we all kind of agreed that, boy, they look leaky in those lines. They don't look very strong, especially on the defensive line. Michigan made him pay. And good Lord, how good is Justice Haynes? This guy is legit the best deep home run threat since Tyrone Wheatley. He's got the speed. He's got the vision. And I love watching him. Love watching him run.
Yeah, to your point on Oklahoma, like Michigan just happened to, and Dave Brandon just happened to schedule a game at Oklahoma back in 2014 for this year. And of course, Oklahoma will come back up here next season. So that'll be fun. And obviously Michigan gets more of the advantage there. But, not many teams have been tested in that way yet in college football. When you go up and down the rankings, Ohio State, Miami has a nice home win against Notre Dame, but Notre Dame started out 0-2. You have Penn State and Oregon this weekend. That's going to be a huge test for both of those teams. Alabama, Georgia as well. Oregon, Penn State will play. Like, we're still finding out about a lot of these teams. Michigan sits at 19. Not that the rankings really matter, but we just happen to know a little bit more about where Michigan's at because of their schedule. And so I don't think that I've changed my expectations really at all for this Michigan team. I thought that the Nebraska game, the Oklahoma game, USC game in the first half of the season would be the ones that are the kind of toss-up type of games, really, really close either way. They end up losing Oklahoma. They win at Nebraska. If they can win at USC in a couple weeks, right now ESPN has their playoff chances at 31%. If they hold serve against Wisconsin at home and then win at USC, I think you're looking at over 50% chance to make the college football playoff. You still have some tough tests remaining there, but you don't play Oregon, you don't play Penn State, you don't play Indiana, who looked like a hell of a team on Saturday night. Maybe it says more about Illinois, but that's still an impressive performance by the Hoosiers. So there are some good teams out there. Michigan doesn't play all of them. You hope they do play Indiana at some point, or Oregon or Penn State, because that means either in the playoff or the Big Ten championship game. But man, I think that this thing could get fun if you beat USC. So, I think improvement to be made during the bye week, get a little bit better, continue to rise, and you could find yourself hitting your stride by November.
I see somebody over there, Joe X. They can beat Wisconsin. Hell, they better beat Wisconsin. Wisconsin's dog crap. But Washington is one to watch too. Washington at home. Jed Fish coming in here. That offense put up 59 points or something on Washington State. So
they allowed 24. Yeah,
they did. But it's gonna be tricky. A lot of these teams, are much better offensively than defensively. Anxious to see that game too. Washington, Ohio State, I think is this weekend as well. Man. Yes. I am not. I've gained 8 pounds, guys, in the first month of football season. This next 2 weeks is going to be detox, but until then, my fat ass is sitting on the couch, like I told Huge today on the Huge Show, and I'm watching football all weekend. Can't wait.
Yeah, a lot of advanced scouting to do. A super chat for $5 from GoBlue982. He says, "Will we add Luke Fickell to the list of coaches who leave a team after playing Michigan in 2 weeks?" When's the last time Michigan had a performance that got a coach fired? Was it Chris Ash in 2018? I could see it happening.
Bobby Williams. I think they got Bobby Williams fired after the 49-3 game in the early 2000s, if I'm not mistaken, at Michigan State. So it's certainly possible. So, and would it stun you if they pulled the trigger on Luke Fickell? It's clear that thing's going in the wrong direction. So, and they've got a potential coach in waiting there. Now they might wait until the end of the season just because, but start doing some of the work in the background before then. But that's an absolute disaster. They were chanting "Fire Fickell" at halftime of that game, and that place was half empty.
It's unbelievable. And it's funny. So maybe it won't be immediate because, like you said, it might take a little bit of time. I think he has a pretty massive buyout, so I think you have to raise some money there to figure that out. And then, of course, the carousel will start at some point. But, man, I mean, when you looked at those hot seat articles before the season, Mike Locksley was on a lot of them, and Luke Fickell didn't show up on as many because of his buyout. And then Locksley goes in there with a freshman quarterback to Camp Randall, and you're watching that game, and you're like, where are all the fans? So it's reached a low point there. So, yeah, you got to beat Wisconsin, going back to the prior comment as well. In a couple weeks, it's homecoming. You're coming off of a bye. I know Wisconsin will be as well. So they're hoping to make some major fixes in the next couple weeks. But, yes, that is definitely possible. And I believe, Anthony, that was the first game I ever covered. The Rutgers game in 2019. The next day, Chris Ash, you got fired. So that, to my knowledge, is the last time it happened. But it definitely could happen in a couple weeks.
Yeah, I think I remember that vividly because I was at the Lions-Chiefs game at Ford Field that next day and remember checking Twitter. So it'll be interesting. Hey, don't count out the dairy money out there. Or who's the guy that does all the stunt shows in the Wisconsin Dells? Is he a Wisconsin booster? Maybe he'll
beats the hell out of me. Evil Knievel? I don't know.
Hold on, I just Googled it here. Tommy Bartlett, is he a Wisconsin? The
Barstool
Tommy Bartlett
to buy him out.
The Tommy Bartlett water ski show. Do they have the money to pay that buyout if it happens? Who's to say?
Just sounds to me like a no. That's not oil money.
There's dairy money out there, though.
Yeah. Okay.
We'll see. But in terms of expectations, I haven't seen enough to I picked them to go 10-2 in the football preview. If you put a gun to my head today, I'm probably there at 9-3, just because I do think both USC Washington games are coin flips. That Ohio State game is going to be a war at the end of the year. But then again, if Michigan's running the ball the way they are, Matt Patricia's going to be wearing his brown pants into Ann Arbor. So we'll see. Don't feel a whole lot different. Moving on, like we said earlier, Sherrone Moore back, sprinting out of the penalty box today. And, of course, Shane Johnson steps in with a $4.99 super chat, if someone could bring that up. This is year 3 with no development from the wide receiver room. So they wasted a third of Bryce Underwood time on campus with this room in disarray. Unacceptable, fellas. Thank God for, he says Hayes, but Justice Haynes. I don't call it wasted development right now. It's their wasted opportunities. He doesn't need to develop to make those throws. He's making the throws. Those guys have to make the plays.
Yeah, maybe wasting an opportunity, right? If you think about, for example, last year, we had somebody on last year's team tell us if they had Bryce Underwood last year, they would have won 10 games, right? They won the Ohio State game and Alabama games without him. And that maybe makes a good point, right? If they had anything decent at quarterback, then they would have won more football games this year. We said going into the season, offensive line, wide receiver. And wide receiver was the big question mark. Donovan McCulley, your number one receiver is an Indiana castoff, and that's kind of sounds harsh, but it's a fact, right? He had gotten passed over, and Donovan McCulley's doing a solid job, but is he a number one receiver on a good Michigan team? I don't think so. So that is a missed opportunity because guys are dropping balls all over the place. Hogan Hansen inexplicably not being on the field on Saturday hurt them. I think if you can get more two tight ends in there, I think Hogan Hansen and Marlon Klein can be weapons in this offense if they play, even if they play together. So that hurt a little bit, but guys have simply got to catch the ball. Channing Goodwin and Samaj Morgan tied for second in the nation in drops, and that's unacceptable. Now, can Bryce take a little bit off some of those short throws? Sure, but the ball hits you in the hands, catch the damn ball.
He's been throwing these guys the football since February, so I don't. That doesn't even register as an excuse anymore.
Catch the damn ball.
Right. And I was listening to the radio broadcast during the game, as I do, and Jason Avant was saying, like, at this point, they know what kind of football, to your point, Anthony, like, they know what kind of football Bryce Underwood throws. You have to adjust. If you're Samaj Morgan on the one short pass that he dropped that really killed that one drive where they go 3 and out, you can't be running and looking to go upfield when you know this is probably going to be a bullet. You're really close to him. This is how he throws it. It's not on Underwood for putting it on the money, but just a little bit too hard. Like, of course, ideally he wouldn't, and you probably have a better chance of catching it, but you've got to adjust, and maybe it affects a little bit your yards after catch or whatever. The fact that you might have to slow down a little bit, but they got to make those plays. Goodwin in the end zone, you got to make that play. I thought Donovan McCulley has to come back to the football by Samaj Morgan on the trick play as well. Like, and Avant said this on the broadcast too. He was having a day there, and he said McCulley was running towards the corner of the end zone as if Underwood was throwing that ball. That was not Underwood. That was Samaj Morgan, who apparently has been throwing dimes in practice, but didn't do it there. So blame on both of the receivers there. But at the same time, they did make a couple plays in the open field. McCulley was able to put his head down, get a first down. Samaj had a really key first down, on that long drive as well. Third down pickup. So they're making some plays with the football. They're getting open a decent amount. They've got to start catching it more. I do think it's an upgraded room from a year ago, but it's still nowhere near the level that it should be.
No, and they are getting open at times, right? Channing Goodwin having a couple steps on that pass in the end zone. We didn't see much of that last year, right? And McCulley, we've seen break open a few times as well. So Dr. Detroit over here does say, heard they're dropping them in practice a lot too. We have reported that in our Inside the Forts that, hey, they're having a tough time there as well. So that's got to be cleaned up, guys. Ron Bellamy's got to get his guys catching the ball. And as Sherrone Moore did say today, well, there are things you can teach them and, pinky this and that and so on and so forth. Bottom line is, guys, these guys have been playing receiver for a long time. Just catch the damn football.
I totally agree with it. That's a good segue into Sherrone Moore's press conference. I think more or less just kind of held court after his 2-game school-imposed suspension ended. Of course, Michigan coming off a big win. He's fired up to be back. Wouldn't reveal where he was watching the game over the weekend, but a lot of topics he hit on. Chris, you just talked about the one where talking about the wide receiver situation. He said a few times that, they got to make those plays, and they have made those plays. It just needs to be a little more crisp, a lot more crisp, a lot more consistent. You had also asked him about Rod Moore. He discussed some of the things that they'll be looking at during the bye week, what that looks like for them. So what were some things that we heard from Sherrone Moore on Monday that stuck out the most to you guys?
Rod Moore's importance in the backfield. I was looking too at passing plays over 20 yards against the Michigan secondary, the Michigan defense this year. I think Michigan's 94th in the country, which is not good enough. So I said, we're having Rod Moore back there. How much is that going to help get guys in the right position, have basically directing traffic out there, having Rod Moore direct traffic out there is a big deal. And you've got some young guys out there. Sherrone Moore made a good point. Jaden Sanders. We've seen Dotson be playing a lot of corner as a true freshman. Jaden Sanders has been a revelation, guys. This guy's been really, really good. And but there have been some holes in the zones that I think are going to close up a little bit more the longer they play and the longer that Rod Moore gets back there. So to me, that kind of stood out, and that he feels good. I was anxious to hear what he said. I talked to Rod on the field after the game, asked him how he's feeling. He said he feels great, which was fantastic to hear after 21 snaps. I think by the Ohio State game, he's going to be close to 100%, and just keep working him back in there, because that's an area that needs to get shored up. There have been way too many broken coverages this year, guys, and too many wide open receivers and plays where they're throwing to somebody and there's nobody there, and that should never happen. So regardless, it is a that there was that, and then him talking about the offensive line improvement. We did see some more zone blocking, and that kind of, I was encouraged again by Guarnera. I think Nate Afobe played a little bit better. Again, they're going to be bigger tests, guys, but to go through the different iterations of the offensive line that we've seen this year, and to continue to improve and run for 380 or something against Central, and then 280 or whatever against Nebraska. That's really good for the offensive line, no matter how you slice it.
They have confidence, like they're picking up confidence. And, I would say we'll see how good that Nebraska defensive front is. It may be one of the worst ones in terms of the line in the Big Ten, but still, it was a Big Ten opponent on the road in the noise, and they were opening up those holes without two of their starters in there. And hell, Jake Guarnera may have played himself into a starting role when Brady Norton is back after the bye. So we'll see how that goes. And that means that they've improved, right? A guy who didn't start the year as a starter is playing as well playing his way into a position like that. So that's huge. We'll see that going forward. I mean, I think the next few weeks, Wisconsin has been pretty good statistically against the run this year. USC actually has been too, but they're not going to face a team that wants to run at them as much as Michigan. So they'll test both of those teams in that way as well. And really, Wisconsin was terrible against the run last year. USC traditionally bad against the run. Lincoln Riley teams have been. So Michigan may have some opportunities to continue to build some steam there on the offensive line. I thought that the Haynes comment that Sherrone Moore made was kind of offering. They'd line up on the minus 15-yard line, run a play, and Justice Haynes kind of takes it through. Once you get past the defense, they're tagging off on him. Usually a guy will kind of pull up, turn around, and go back for the next rep. And he was taking those 85 to the opposite end zone. And Sharon's like, dude, we got another rep coming. And he's like, we got to practice scoring, right? And Sherrone was like, oh, that's a good point. And now it's showing up in the games. I mean, 75 yards 2 times in the same year. I know Donovan did 75 and 85 in the same game a few years ago, but you don't see that all that often. They're scoring on the first play of these drives, which is hilarious as well. And Haynes is able to, there's just something about first play of a drive. He can do it. Underwood did it as well on the quarterback draw. You're seeing Jordan Marshall really play to the level that he's capable and showed some great speed on his run too. So, but I thought that was an interesting little tidbit there, because Haynes has been fantastic, 3rd in the country right now in rushing.
And credit to Greg Crippen for springing 2 or 3 of those touchdown runs, actually, especially the one by Marshall. He took out 3 guys and turned around and was celebrating it as Marshall was running for a touchdown untouched. So we've been harsh on him at times when it's been deserved. You're going to get him credit when he earns that, and he certainly earned it on Saturday. You could see it even without going to the replay. You can see it real time how he's dominating out there. There are going to be some bad matchups for him because he's not the most athletic guy, and against really big athletic defensive linemen, like a lot of people, he's going to struggle at center. But on Saturday, he was one of the best players on the field. Really, really happy for that guy. Means a lot to him.
I think I just wrap by saying, for an entire week, I saw like Michigan did things well, and then I heard people say, but it was Central Michigan. And I'm a little sensitive to that because we have a lot of work to do up there in Mount Pleasant. But to kind of whether you think Nebraska is top half of the Big Ten good, or their front's one of the worst in the Big Ten, to go out and have a repeat performance of a lot of those things on the road in a Big Ten environment, I was pretty encouraged by that. And it seemed like Sherrone Moore was too. So bye week coming up this week. They'll practice a couple days and then get a few days off. Of course, we found out the kick time for the Wisconsin game today. That'll be a noon kick on Fox on October 4th. So for you folks coming in for the Maze Out, start planning accordingly. We are going to get into questions here in just a moment, but we do have another sponsor that we want to shout out this week on our Monday night show. It's our friends over at Brunt. Choosing work boots used to mean sacrificing comfort or durability. If they felt good, they didn't last. And if they lasted, they wrecked your feet. Not with Brunt. They thought that was BS. So they went out and they built tough boots to feel great on day one. You don't have to break them in. Your feet aren't going to be sore while you get used to them because people out there are doing real work that shouldn't have to choose between comfort and durability. Talk about a bye week. I got some work to do outside, some fall cleanup, some shoveling. I'll be installing siding this weekend. I want a good work boot while I'm out there doing that. And the folks at Brunt have hooked us up with that. There's a care package that should have brought it in here. It's in the next room over. I didn't get to it because I was in Nebraska over the weekend, but Brunt is great. They sent a cool trucker hat as well. So for a limited time, our listeners are going to get $10 off at Brunt when you use the code Wolverine at checkout. Just head to bruntworkwear.com and use the promo code Wolverine, and you're good to go. That's all you need to do. So we're looking forward to working with them throughout the football season. I want to thank the folks at Brunt for the care package, and I'm gonna be trying those work boots on as soon as I get off this podcast because I need a good boot to work this weekend. Well, it's an opportunity week for Michigan. It's an opportunity week for Anthony Broom to get his honeydew list done around this house before winter hits. So head on over to bruntworkwear.com. Use that promo code Wolverine. Questions time for you folks watching live. We got a couple of them started here. We also took some questions from the fort. I'm going to start from the fort. Actually, I will start in the chat because I close out of that tab to read the ad. So that's great work on my part. From KBUH King. It says, do you think we'll finally see Hansen and Klein on the field at the same time for Wisconsin after the bye?
At times, there'll be some packages for them, and I think they're probably two of their better pass catchers right now, if you're thinking about it. Marlon Klein has one drop this year, I think it is. Hogan Hansen showed great hands on that pass on the sideline. Clay still insists that he pushed off. I didn't see it, but regardless, Hogan Hansen is one of those guys that can be a Jeremy Tooman type receiver in that he can get behind linebackers. He can make some things happen in the passing game. So I as long as Hansen's healthy, and we didn't ask about him today, we forgot. So I will ask, and hopefully next Monday we'll have an answer for you on his status. I don't know what happened. It must have been something in practice because he'd been playing pretty well and feeling pretty good right up until late in the week. So hopefully he's okay, but I'm guessing he is.
Yeah, they've only played one game where they were together on the field, and that was Central Michigan, and Marlon Klein was coming off of the injury the week before. So you haven't seen a fully healthy Marlon Klein and Hogan Hansen. He's, I would say Klein's probably, I haven't talked to him, but I would imagine he's not fully healthy at this point either. So the bye week comes at a good time for him coming off of an ankle injury. So those two are two of your better weapons on offense, and it's too bad you don't have better ones on the outside. Got to continue to develop that chemistry with those guys. And again, they have to reel in the football, but those two playing together, I think would be really, really big. And, I think there's a lot those two still can show. And I think Marlon Klein, for his one drop, was that one against New Mexico that was kind of in traffic, and he was, got lit up either way. So, he's probably pretty sure-handed, and that those guys can be reliable for Bryce. They need to hit on some of maybe those just layup type of passes, other than, the swing passes and things like that, which they blocked really well last week, by the way. But, I think those two can add a little different dimension.
Yeah, the good news is that the layups are there. They were at times last year, but didn't have a guy who could lay the ball up. Now you do. You got to catch the football. That's the next step. It shouldn't be as hard as it's looked the last 2 years, but they're getting closer to it. We have two questions that are very similar. One's in the chat from Christopher Durr, so we'll put that one on the screen. Also got it from 2HF5 Forney B on the board. Both basically asking this: are there any other options at wide receiver? Is Michigan going to give younger guys a look? Christopher says, given the amount of drops, any chance of Marsh or Fred Moore getting the next start just to shake things up? It's a big week for that, I think.
Yeah, and Fred's had his issues with catching the ball. He did a drop against New Mexico, I think, and so that's an issue. We did hear from somebody who was familiar with the receiving corps, very familiar with it, saying that they wouldn't doubt if Andrew Marsh got some more opportunities, and that the top three, in his opinion, are Marsh, Goodwin when he catches the ball, and then McCulley. So that leaves you without a slot, and no quickness, I guess, out there. But man, Samaj has got to start catching more of those balls too, if they're going to rely on him as much as they are. So, but I do think you will see that, and I do think that there needs to be some accountability there. Like, okay. But again, if some of these guys aren't catching the ball in practice to earn those opportunities, what do you do? So to me, they still need an upgrade in the room. And I think it really starts with getting more talent in that room. And I think it starts next year. So with some portal guys, I do think that Goodwin can still be a good receiver here. I think Marsh will be a good receiver here. But right now, they're just a little bit limited in terms of talent.
Yeah, it feels like they're pushing and like trying to get Andrew Marsh more involved and trying to get him to earn a bigger role on this offense. And as he gets more comfortable, maybe he will. We've seen him have his ups and downs so far this year on offense and special teams. So we'll see where that goes. I think Kendrick Bell maybe could get a look as well. He's somebody who, has at least played quite a bit last season when he was healthy. And, same with Fred Moore. A little bit surprising that his role is so slim. I mean, we talked to him, I think it was the beginning of fall camp, and he was talking about he wants, 1,000 yards and all this stuff. And then he got beat out to be a starter. So, I mean, there are guys who have played snaps here before. So it's not like that they'd be, you couldn't put them in. But, I mean, obviously behind the scenes, they're being beaten out by the guys who are playing. So until they raise their game, and Sherrone said they're going to reevaluate everything this week, make sure the best guys are playing, all that. So it is a bye week. Like, things can change. Sometimes you come out of a bye and, this is different or that's different. So it's definitely something to watch coming out of it.
I mean, they're going to evaluate every position. You could see a different starter. You could see a different two deep come out of this. It'll be interesting to watch. One guy who I'm not sure will be a solution, and no disrespect to him, I just looked up Anthony Simpson's stats from 2023 at UMass, the transfer they brought in. He had 7 drops that season, so he might not be. For all the. It's like the backup quarterback. If the starting quarterback throws an interception, everyone automatically calls for that next guy. Well, the next guys are dropping the passes too. Though we don't know if Simpson's done that at Michigan, but I assume the guys on the field right now are the ones who are dropping the ball the least amount of time. And that's a little frightening if we're being honest. Sure. Take this one from the board. Oraglow. I believe Oraglow is a new subscriber. So welcome to, maybe he used that promo code UM1 for 2 months of access for $1. Certainly hope so. He says, is Jayshon Barham a Mason Graham level of problem right now, or will he be soon? He is so fun to watch.
Different, obviously, position, but in terms of affecting a passing game, he certainly looks like it. Now, again, you got to go back to the fact that Wisconsin is not going to be the standard, or not Wisconsin, but Nebraska's not going to be the standard. Their tackles really struggled, and maybe there will be better ones that he faces, but in some of the games there won't be. Michigan State comes to mind, right? This is a game where he could dominate. There are other teams on the schedule where you put him out there and they're not going to have anybody that can block him unless they bring somebody over there for some help, and then that opens things up for guys like Derek Moore, who finally started getting some pressures as well. So Mason Graham is the best defensive tackle to ever play at Michigan. So I think it's premature to say that Jayshon Barham is going to have that kind of an impact, but it certainly did make a difference on Saturday. It was fun to watch. You're absolutely right. Loved it. I loved watching him come off the edge. It was terrorizing, right? It had to be terrifying for Raiola, who stood in there and got hit how many times? There were 36 pressures. I don't know how many hits he had, but they were all over him. So it's a great question, and love watching him on the edge. And I think we'll see more of that. And when they do that, I'd still like to see more of Cole Sullivan on the field with him at the same time. I think he is one of the best 11 football players on the defense.
I agree with that. I mean, he is all over the field. He's instinctual, makes big hits, makes big plays, comes up with the football. I mean, he's kind of everything you could ask for. But, yeah, I mean, if you're an opposing offensive coordinator, you probably have to think about him throughout the week and also pre-snap as much as anybody in the country, I guess, is, in terms of where he's lining up, because when you're an edge rusher, you line up on one side or the other. Wink Martindale is very creative, so it's not just where he's lined up, it's where he's lined up in relation to other guys as well. I'm not willing to go as far as the Mason Graham, but the edge rusher position is so impactful that it could get to that point where he's that much of a problem in terms of where he is, figuring out where he is, sliding the protection his way, that sort of thing.
Pass rush stats for Saturday, just because I had PFF pulled up already. 36 pressures, 7 sacks, 4 additional hits, 25 hurries. Those guys got after it top to bottom. And I love Cole Sullivan as well. He's made a big play in every single game so far. And I think that's going to kind of be the theme of how his Michigan career goes over here. Let's go with John Diadamo here in the chat. He says, here's my question. How come our tight ends regularly catch the balls and the wide receivers don't? It isn't just because the wide receivers run deeper routes, because even on the gimmies, they drop them sometimes. And there's another comment in here. I got to scroll up. Cut from a different cloth said Underwood's receivers in high school and those various 7-on-7 leagues haven't had any issues catching passes. Michigan's current crop of wide receivers, I don't know what's going on. So we've sort of harped on this a lot on this show, but thoughts on the tight ends against the wide receivers? What's the difference there?
They have better hands, and they catch. That's just basically what it comes down to. I think that's all that it is. And but these guys have got to start making plays. You're absolutely right. It is weird, and but to me, it's that simple. So I you can work in front of the jugs machine all the time and stuff like that. Sometimes guys are gamers too, or aren't gamers. Maybe make catches in practice, but they don't make them in games. But these guys are having issues dropping balls in practice too. So I don't know what the answer is, other than maybe maybe you just need to upgrade the talent.
Yeah, I think they are running different routes, and they're not looking over their shoulder much, like Goodwin on the one and things like that. So I think it is a little bit different, but yeah, I also think you have 2 really good tight ends, and the wide receivers aren't quite on that level, relatively speaking.
All right, we're going to take this last one here and wrap a little early tonight. It's from Kanga80, who says, given the in-game coaching decisions, does the coaching staff realize their shortcomings and have a plan to rectify this, or is this going to be a painful learning lesson for the next few years? Well, I like Sherrone. It feels like he's pumping sunshine at an alarming rate on issues instead of solving them.
And guys make mistakes, right? He did say today that they have a guy, an analytics guy. I wrote about this in my 7 things column yesterday, that, okay, it's time to have one of those fat kids from Moneyball sitting there and telling you what to do with the analytics or whatever and when to do it. So that was inexcusable yesterday, but other things have, sorry guys, somebody turned on my TV in here, getting ready for the Lions game. So, but other than, go back to Lloyd Carr against Colorado in 1986, or not 86, but 1996, mismanaging the clock. Gary Moeller used to do it all the time. It's a learning experience, but it should never happen here. Things have to get better.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny, like when I talked to Hunter Bailey, who covers Charlotte, coming into Biff Poggi's 2-week stint as the interim head coach, and I asked him, what's he like? Game management, clock management, all this stuff. And he's like, oh, yeah, there were a lot of mistakes and a few reasons why they lost a couple games when he was at Charlotte, where time management, some questionable coaching decisions, things like that. And he said even some of the wins they had were a little bit closer than they should have been. And you reflect on that coming out of the Nebraska game, it's like, yeah, they definitely should have won by more than they did. Luckily for Michigan, it didn't cost them. But yeah, we've seen some of these issues really dating back to last season as well. So it's not like it's just been Biff Poggi, but this was probably the most egregious to Hail Mary, that sort of thing. So, I think part of it is going to be a learning experience, but also you have to be just a lot better in general. It's year 2 of Sherrone Moore. So I would expect things to be a little bit better than we saw like Indiana game last year in situations like that. But yeah, it's just really hard to say, especially because it was a different head coach doing it last game. So I guess we'll just have to see.
I think all that needs to be said about it is that when Sherrone Moore was asked about today, he kind of laughed and was like, yeah, I'm not talking about that. So even with him having some questionable decisions, to find that being a bit of a circus, I think says all it needs to say. I have 2 quick super chats to clean up here, and we'll get out of here. Steve for $4.99 says the defense needs to be more disciplined. They talk too much. Hope that USC game isn't an 11 p.m. kickoff, fellas. It will not be. They only put those. I'm not even going to go there. Go Blue. Great job as always, guys. You're muted, Chris.
Yep. Only games that don't matter go on at 11 p.m. So you don't have to worry about that. Michigan will not be 11 p.m. And yeah, do more, say less. Remember the shirts that Michigan basketball used to wear? Just shut the hell up, guys, and play ball. Okay. You can be emotional and have fun with it, and talk to a guy across from you. But when you're hurting your team, you talked about Cole Sullivan in his play. Clay, he had one great play erased because Brandon Hillman couldn't keep his mouth shut and had to taunt the sideline. Just shut the hell up and play football.
Yeah, and celebrate with your teammates. And Sherrone Moore said that's something he noticed over the weekend, watching a bunch of games on TV. He had a little spare time over the weekend. That he noticed that the players that aren't celebrating with their teammates are usually on the team that loses the game and that sort of thing. So in a situation like the Brandon Hillman penalty, that can lose you a game. And it would have been something we'd be talking about. We're talking about the drops right now. We would be talking about Brandon Hillman a hell of a lot more today if Michigan loses that game, because it was a crucial mistake. So they've got to rein that in. I say it a lot during situations like this. It's better to have that happen in a win, though, where you can go back and say, hey, this could have cost us. Let's learn from it. We still won regardless, instead of that being kind of one of the things that you look back on all year long as if they could have been more disciplined, this season could have been X, Y, or Z. Instead, you move on after a win, but yeah, they've got to clean that up.
Last thing here from GoBlue982 for $2, and this really should be $2 in the NIL pot for my CMU Chippewas. He says, AB, in your opinion, what is the best thing in/about Mount Pleasant? I'll give you a quick on-campus thing, quick off-campus thing. On campus, I think for a MAC stadium, Kelly Short Stadium is gorgeous, and it's a lot of fun. They play their homecoming game this weekend against Eastern Michigan. They're not a rival, by the way. We're rivals with Western Michigan. Kelly Shorts is beautiful. I think a lot of the athletic facilities are great relative to being a MAC school. And about Mount Pleasant in general, it's got to be Dog Central, man. Go get the hot dog that's got the mac and cheese and it's wrapped in bacon. It's one of my favorite things on the planet. So Dog Central, sponsor me, sponsor the pod. We'll get this thing figured out. We'll get some more talent on the field up there.
Isn't there a Taco Boy in Mount Pleasant?
There is, or there was. I think it closed when I was there, but there was.
Okay. If there isn't, if there still is, then that's the place to go.
Sounds like a good sandwich over at Dog Central. So.
What's that?
Sounds like a good sandwich over at Dog Central.
All right, we're done. We're done. Be sure to like this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Most of you are not subscribed. Over 50% of you that watch these videos are not subscribed to the channel. How do you find us? The best way to find us is just subscribe. We're just there in your feed. You're gonna get the bell, or the little bell, the little alert when we go live. So please just take a second here while I'm begging here. I'm begging you. I am on my hands and knees here for you to like the video and subscribe to our channel, and also use that promo code UM1 for 2 months of access to our site for only $1. For Chris Ballas, Clayton Safey, our producer Megan behind the scenes, you got a good football team. You'll figure it out eventually. Just not this weekend. That's going to do it for us today. We'll talk to you again later this week.